Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, think about how polygamy stabilizes society. Because when you have an abundance of single moms, they usually turn to prostitution. Some people think you could tax your way out of this, and you can just give welfare checks to these women, and they will somehow no longer have a libido for men. That's just not true. Women will always want to have intimacy. If women could so easily shut off the desire for intimacy, then there would be more Catholic nuns who would be celibate. To be a nun in Catholicism, you must be celibate. If you look in the past how nunneries were talked about by early feminists, they would hate it because you're not allowed to have intimacy anymore. Now today, you see abundance of single moms go on OnlyFans. They are very happy to create content that your husband will watch. And there's a lot of single women, single moms, on Tinder, and they'll perfectly hook up with your husband, and they don't really care if he's married. Especially if he's handsome. And so, polygamy allows single moms to apply, or at least have a chance at getting a husband. They are then removed from the risk of turning into a prostitute. A lot of women will choose the easier way to earn money, and intimacy, selling access to their bodies digitally or physically, is a faster way to get money. Now, when these women, if monogamy is forced on men with the threat of imprisonment, because if you try to be polygamous and marry multiple women legally, they're going to try to arrest you, punish you. But if you have unlimited visits to a stripper or a masseuse, well, you can do that endlessly, right? And they're not going to really throw you in jail for a happy ending with a masseuse. And so, begin to see the hypocrisy. And then, when you go further, you'll see a lot of single women who have children, and they still have their looks. They go and create very fancy escort profiles. And countless women have zero problem sleeping with your husband. Okay? So, when there's tons of war widows, for example, women are desperate and they offer access to their bodies. Because the jobs, they say, are scarce. And how can they really have the finances to afford their lifestyle? How is the government going to fund all that? And even if they do work, they're still not making enough. And even if you were to cut a check, like let's say your apartment is $1,700 a month, plus food, Wi-Fi so that you can do work or whatever, and gas and car insurance and the registration that you have to pay for, the sticker that you put or whatever on the back of the car. There's all stuff that you gotta pay for. Plus the shampoos and trying to look beautiful and all that stuff. The government cannot fund all of that. Cannot fund your entire lifestyle. So they can cut you a small welfare check, but these women can work, but they still crave a man. And if a woman is living in the projects, she has a crappy job, she still has a nice body, and your husband comes along, well, she's gonna shoot her shot. She don't give a damn about you. And your husband, if you've been neglecting him, there's been some problems, he's weak in faith, he can slip up. And so polygamy allows him to take her on and off the streets. Now, if she belongs to the streets, you leave her in the streets. What I mean by off the streets is in terms of a beggar, in terms of destitution, not prostitution. You shouldn't marry a prostitute. My point is that polygamy allows women to have a rescue, Polygamy rescues women. Feminists will tell you, no. See, what you gotta do is you just gotta go to work all day, sleep around, use drugs, party, hang out, just wild it out. That'll fulfill you. Materialism will fulfill you. It denies the natural magnetism that men and women have to each other. And they'll say, no, you can just buy online a plastic toy and that will suffice. That's not going to replace affection, the scent of a man, his heartbeat. When you lay on his chest and you hear his heart, it's not going to replace cuddling. It's just not something that's going to happen. Okay? Your arm isn't going to replace a warm embrace from your husband. You can, I'm going to hug myself. No, it's not the same. Okay? And some feminists pay gigolos. The gigolo is paid to leave, and he has no connection to you at all. This is about money. And if he hustles you and pretends to like you, well, you're an idiot. He's just doing his job. He's hustling you, and that's it. So that's a mistake. So polygamy rescues women and stabilizes society because prostitution destabilizes society. It makes it harder for men to maintain their marriages because some women will not forgive cheating. So if monogamy is enforced on men by threat of imprisonment by the secular liberal government, they say, no, you can have mistresses, but you can't marry. So the nobility is taken away, and the duty and responsibility is taken away. Men are allowed to sleep around in an atheistic society as much as they want and get as many women pregnant, and, well, these women can get endless abortions. So it's a very distorted system. They can get child support from some, and from others, not any. Okay? So feminists will tell you child support can replace a man. Edibles, intoxicant will mask your pain and loneliness, so you don't need a man. This is very bizarre, especially since feminists endorse women creating adult content. So this is why it's important for you to remember that polygamy stabilizes society and rescues women from the slide into poverty and the slide into prostitution. Because when women are desperate and have no money, they choose that. And some women are like, I gotta work in a warehouse, there's like a dog food factory, and they're like, do I have to work in a dog food factory smelling like dog food, or do I just become a sugar baby for this married guy? A lot of women will say, which job allows me to feel more feminine and pure? Now, I like honest work. I am not saying that it's moral to be a sugar baby. I'm simply identifying that a lot of women pretend that they don't accept polygamy, but if they were in the position of a need to survive and feed their child, they're going to sleep with your husband. That's it. Now, I think it's better for a woman to say, I want to be a wife, rather than I want to use this man for money to survive and sleep with him and let him have access to my body with no strings attached except for money like a sugar baby. You see? Because you can't stop women from tempting married men, and you can't, you can try, but it's going to be there. And so the solution is to reduce the risks of adultery and divorce to allow polygamy. Because with less married women divorcing because their husband cheated, that's going to benefit society, because she will be married and then he'll have that wife and she knows about it and it's not a problem. And when it's more open, it's more clean, because she's like, okay, we both know about each other, everyone knows about each other, everyone's going to be responsible, stay clean and pure. When it's a secret, well, that's a little unfair because you don't know the risks that are coming in. And women who want to be a secret often have bad morals, and they don't really check up at the doctor as much, and they're not very clean and not trustworthy, because they're perfectly fine with hurting a woman behind her back, but they don't have the courage to be an open wife in front of that woman. So it's more honorable to be out in the open. Okay? It is quite strange when men get money, those women accept polygamy, fine. But then when middle class women and lower class women are struggling, they let their jealousy prevent them from being rescued. They let jealousy prevent them from eating, from being provided for. The government is never going to be the system that saves you. In Hurricane Helene right now, North Carolina, there's tons of women who are flooded. There is no jobs, but if they could marry a guy and he could pull them out of poverty, that would be wonderful. And even if you live in like a moderate means with a middle class man as a second, third, or fourth wife, that's still better than being at a job you hate to barely make ends meet and never really be allowed to be feminine. See, there is no feminist compounds. Feminists don't have a bank where single moms can go and get all their bills paid. Deep down, women know that what's between your legs rescues you faster than the sweat of your back on a hard day's labor. Okay? That is the way the cookie crumbles. And men can pick you as a wife because of your beauty. Men they don't see women working in a sweatshop and say, oh, I want to have her as a wife because she works so hard. No, she's pretty. She's upon her dean. She's going to obey me. She can cook. She's not going to be neglectful in intimacy. Bam. But see, we are being lied to and misled by feminists. They're making a new reality that doesn't exist. That's their fantasy. And so, remember, your ability to accept polygamy can rescue you out of a bad situation. Some women, let's say they're being abused. Okay? They gotta find a new man, but they got kids. It's gonna be harder for them to find a man who doesn't have kids of his own to take them on, as well as her kids. But if there's men who are willing to accept polygamy with her and take her on and her children, that's going to rescue her from that bad situation. Going to women's shelters, do you want to live there for a while? Do you want to be in these Section 8 welfare projects where there's lots of crime and violence and gangs? Or would you prefer to be a co-wife and live in the suburbs? What's better for you and your children? Be mindful. Be mindful. Remember, whichever path you choose, there's always going to be struggles and trials. But polygamy stabilizes society because it keeps prostitution under check. Because when there's an abundance of single moms, now they're in survival mode. And women are cutthroat. They will snatch your husband away from you. They'll shower him with affection and try to take him from you. It's better to share than to take. Think about that. And you cannot force him to stay with you. You can't dig your claws into his back and not allow him to leave. Okay? If he leaves you and you have children, it's going to be a harder life for you because you're going to have to be living on government assistance. No man around. Hoping that you get someone, you're going to be lonely. Men, like I said earlier in another video, they could be Al Pacino's age, Robert De Niro, George Clooney. They can get, women easier. And even men who don't have a lot of money, they still have their body, they can still attract women. You look at these men who have what they call multiple baby mamas, you're like, that's a sign right there. His baby mamas are having a hard time finding a man, but he can get women still. And women still will sleep with him. So, already we see men can have children with different women at different ages of their life far easier than women can. And if a woman has children by 4 different men, life is harder for her than it is for a man who has 4 children by 4 different women. 1 each. You see? It's like totally different social stigma, mental stigma. It's completely different. Right? And remember, you want to make it to where adultery and fornication are reduced. Polygamy is that system. It really is. It truly is. Think about it. Let me know what you think, because I think it's important for us to really be honest about a lot of women's behaviors. Don't shy away from polygamy. Don't shy away from it. Don't think you're better than it. Because right now, it has never been easier for your husband to replace you on the dot, and it's harder for you to replace him. Don't become nihilistic. Don't become cynical. Wise up. Become mature and accept what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator and sustainer of the universe, has permitted men to do. And then everything becomes okay. You can learn to relax. And time heals all wounds. Truly it does. It's not an insult to who you are as a person if he has a second, third, or fourth wife. It's an insult when he chooses a hooker or a prostitute while lying to your face that he likes monogamy. Notice the difference. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you'd like to read more about what I write, you can go to www.subscribestar.com/MilahanArchive. Hope to see you there.